Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of the Energetic Shift podcast. So, bit of a vulnerable one, but also like a really inspired and emotive one, right? Something happened this month, literally on the 1st, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, to be fair. And honestly, as soon as it happened, I knew that this was probably going to be a podcast at some point because I think a lot of you need to hear this. Someone really close to me, a client who is also a friend, came to me this month to talk about pausing our work together. So, about pausing her coaching, which is obviously completely fine, completely her decision, totally supported. But what got me wasn't the fact that she was leaving, which I'll come back to a side note on that separately. It was the fact that she was worried about telling me that really laid heavy with me. And when she said that she was been thinking about it for a little while, but she was worried about what, I would feel like. I just felt really sad. I felt really sad, not about her pausing, not at all, but about the fact that she'd been carrying that worry around. And somewhere along the way, that meant that I'd made my emotions very well known. And it had brought to my attention that actually I share quite openly about my emotions around people leaving. And because obviously not only is she a client, but she's a friend, we will have had this conversation. And I will have done it so unintentionally, and there'll have been such a nonchalant conversation about it where I've just been chatting, not realizing that she's taken that on. And that really affected me in a way that like instantly I'm now like in a position where I need to do something about this. And instead of pushing past it, I've got really curious about it. And because the side note that I was talking about is I have grown immensely, right? In the way of how I feel now when clients move on, when clients stop working with me, because it's inevitable. Even though I've got a really, really, really high retention rate, because I am a huge believer in coaching can be constantly deepened, and the evolution of what I do and what I bring to the world, there's always something that can be had. However, it is everybody's life, everybody's circumstances, everybody's businesses, everybody's finances, etc., are all very different, and everybody's priorities will change, right? Some people will choose to continue to deepen their coaching, and some people will choose to coach hop, and some people will choose to pause coaching and go on their own, and that's all of it is absolutely fine, right? Even though I completely get that, I understand that, in the past I've had real heavy emotions about that, and it leads to rejection, abandonment, lots of stuff that, like, lots of self-limiting beliefs that I've had from being younger in my childhood. And this I talk very openly about and very consciously about. So it's got me thinking, like, when was the last time we had that conversation? When was the last time she witnessed me being, emotional around something like that? And maybe that's still showing up for me. And if it is, how can I work on that? And I ended up in quite a deep conversation with myself, my guides, and I was really starting to ask the questions like what it actually means to have emotions in business and what we do with them. So I went down like the rabbit hole with my own thoughts with this, and it really landed, it really hit me. Like instead of getting annoyed at myself, like obviously I'm doing the work, I'm going in, right? I want to talk about the thing that will be judged in this, and even up to press, there will have been people listening to this podcast already now judging me for making my client feel like this, right? By my actions, by my emotions, by my thoughts, by my feelings, all of those things, right? By maybe blurring the lines too much, which I'm just going to say here now, like, there's no such thing as blurring the lines too much. I think it's extremely healthy to be friends with my clients and vice versa, right? So you're never going to convince me otherwise. And this is not enough to convince me otherwise either. I want to talk about like the thing that nobody really tells you in business. And nobody told me this about business. And actually, people still don't talk about it now. We talk about mindset, we talk about strategy, we talk about alignment and energy and all of that sort of stuff. But we don't really talk about the fact that business is just emotionally weird sometimes, right? Because we're human beings. Clients leave and it hurts a little bit, for those of us especially that have got abandonment issues or rejection sensitivity or anything like that. Like a launch doesn't land and you feel it in your chest, you feel disappointed, and someone doesn't renew with you even though you in your head you completely understand it. Your heart does its weird little thing, right? Where it goes, oh, is that about me? And sometimes we can make it personal, and sometimes we can emotionally charge on that and, react. And because we're coaches, right? Because those of us that are coaches or seen as leaders in the industry, seen as evolved people, we're meant to be the ones that have done the work, that there's this unspoken pressure to not feel those things because you've done the work, right? In inverted commas, or at least not to admit them. And I'm exposing myself by recording this podcast, but as you very well know, I like to keep things real, raw, open, and in the moment as well. It's like we're supposed to be so healed and so regulated that nothing ever touches us. And I don't ever want to be that person that is the most healed, the most regulated, the most finished article in the room. I don't want to be that person. Like, fucking hell, that life would be boring then, right? There's nothing to do. There's nothing to evoke me in any way, shape, or form. And I just think it's complete fucking bullshit that we have this pressure to not feel. We have this pressure to be completely healed, especially if we are teachers of healing, or we're healers, or we're the people that are guiding other people to heal. Because I'm not being funny. If you haven't experienced these things, if you're not going through these things, and if you can't differentiate healing, then how are you supposed to be able to empathize or pass forward that understanding and teaching to somebody else if you've never experienced it, right? Or still don't experience it? Because actually there's never I don't think there's ever a better teaching than watching somebody else actually go through it in front of you, if you know what I mean. So having emotions like in business isn't unprofessional, and that's the be all and end all of this podcast, right? It's not. We're human beings, and we have emotions. It's not a sign that you haven't done enough work, or it's not a weakness. It's just being fucking human. And the problem isn't the feelings. It's not feeling things. That's not what's wrong with. There's nothing wrong with feeling things. You're supposed to feel things. The outside noise and society and the conditioning that we've had in the past is enough to numb the fuck out of us, right? So please tap into your feelings. Please feel the feelings. Please process the feelings, all of them. And don't be ashamed to talk about it either. The problem is what we do with those feelings, not that we feel them in the first place. There's a massive difference between feeling sad when a client leaves and making that their problem to manage. And the response that I gave my client when she messaged me about this the other week was, of course, absolutely. Here's the notice period. Not a problem at all. I hate that you felt that you couldn't, come to me about this. However, my feelings are not your responsibility, they're mine, right? And I shared with her that my emotions will always be here because I care a lot about what I do. But I totally understand from a business point of view, from a human being point of view also, I understand that that's how it is. Like, she doesn't have to stay with me forever. Like, I can also be sad about it too, right? I can also be sad that I won't get to coach her. I will miss her, but also I'm taking it as a fucking win. Like, this woman in the last couple of years that we've worked together has absolutely transformed beyond fucking belief. And I'm taking that as a win. So as much as I will feel sad that I don't get to coach her at the moment, and that's okay, by the way, that's absolutely fucking okay. I can sit with the, oh my God, what amazing work we've done over the last couple of years. Look at her. This is a big bloody win. And the difference, like, between being triggered by something and letting that trigger run the show is the issue, right? And this is where people will avoid letting their emotions rise to the surface because they're worried about not being able to handle the emotions. And that's the healing part. The healed part, or the healing part, is you know how to manage your emotions. It's called emotional intelligence. And the more emotional intelligence that you have, the easier it will be for you to manage your emotions. Being emotionally intelligent is not feeling anything, not feeling any of your emotions. To do what I do, I truly believe I need emotion. So if you're a coach, healer, therapist, heart-led individual that supports, helps, guides other people in this world, on this earth, I truly believe you need to feel your emotions. But there's a difference between feeling it and being consumed by it. So yes, of course, I felt sad this month. I felt that familiar sting of rejection, even though knowing full well that it's nothing to do with me. It's nothing to do with me. And even if she hadn't have said it, I would have still known, because I have done the work, that it's not about me. It's just where she is in her season of life, right? And her season of business. And I felt that sting of rejection that I know lives in me from before I ever even had a fucking business. And I didn't pretend that it wasn't there. I felt it. But I also didn't put it on her either, because it's not her issue. It's not her responsibility. I didn't make her feel responsible for it. I processed it. I looked at it really honestly. I had the conversation with myself, the lovely, deep conversation where I've now turned it into, a podcast episode. And then I messaged her and, said my emotions are my responsibility, not yours. And that's the work, not feeling things, feeling them and knowing they're yours to process and to deal with. And while we're here, I want to talk to you a little bit about the rejection specifically, right? Because I think this is one of the most common triggers that I see in business and in my clients, and one of the least talked about. When someone leaves you or says no to you, or, ends working with you in one way, shape, or another, when someone doesn't buy from you, when someone unfollows you, for a lot of us, that lands somewhere really old and really deep. And even if you have done the work around this, it's not really about the client. It's not really about the sale. It's not, it's not about any of that. It's about a much older story that says people leaving means something about your worth. And that's what is tied to it with me. And I know that story because I've lived that story. And doing that work doesn't mean that that story disappears completely. It's a part of my past. It means that I recognize it quicker. It means that I don't react anymore. I process, I respond, and I get better at not letting it make decisions for me in the way that I act or move going forward. You see, your nervous system is always going to respond to perceived rejection, right? That's just biology. That's just what it does when it's being wired a certain way. The goal isn't to feel nothing. The goal is to feel it, name it, choose your response consciously rather than just reacting. And I'm really proud of myself because I actually recognized how different I acted. And I'm saying this as a woman that's been in business for 12 years, as a highly successful coach in the industry. I'm saying this as a woman who has coached hundreds of women on the same thing, right? I believe I've been able to successfully coach women on this particular thing because I felt it, because I've lived it, because I've been there. And I want to show you exactly what I mean, right? I want you to actually see yourself in this podcast, right? There's so many of you that will have this issue come up at some point. So let me give you some examples of the kind of emotions that come up in business that nobody really expresses, talks about, because it's deemed as being weak, or you can't possibly coach, teach, train, heal on that if you're still experiencing these feelings. So it could be things like, some scenarios would be like when you put a piece of content out there that like felt really vulnerable and exposing, and it gets 3 likes, 3. And your brain immediately goes straight into like, nobody sees it, nobody cares, I shouldn't have said that. When actually it just didn't reach many people that day, but your nervous system doesn't know that, right? Or when you're on a discovery call or an energy call, whatever you call them, a sales call, and you can just feel the energy shift. They're going a little bit quiet, they're hesitating, and before they've even said anything, you're already in your head going, they're not going to buy, and they're just they're going cold, and suddenly you're not even present on the call anymore. like you're off in your head, you're off with the fairies, right? You're just waiting for that rejection. Or when somebody who you've been following for ages, someone you really rate, that you really put on a pedestal, launches something that looks almost identical to what you do. And instead of just getting on with it, you spend 3 days going down a comparison spiral, questioning everything that you've built, and whether you're even original enough. Or you go the opposite way and you get really angry and accuse this person of copying you. That's also emotion. We're not just talking about sad emotion and feeling the rejection. We're also talking about the anger that we can respond with or react with. Or when a client gets a massive result and instead of you just being happy for them, your brain goes into this like weird thing where it goes, what if the next client doesn't get that same result? And suddenly you're catastrophizing about something that hasn't even happened yet. And then there's the one that we really don't talk about, the ones that like feel embarrassing to admit, when you're someone who teaches this stuff, right? Like feeling genuinely jealous when you see someone in your industry having a big launch. Not inspired, not neutral, not woo, girl power, actually a little bit jealous. And if you're sitting here listening to this thinking, I don't do that, bullshit. We have all done it, we all feel it, and nobody fucking talks about this. Immediately feeling awful about it because you're a coach and you're supposed to be abundant and happy for everyone and girl power and women supporting women. And jealousy means you've got scarcity mindset, doesn't it, right? No, babe. It just means you're fucking human. It just means you're human. All of these feelings exist for a reason. They're meant to be felt. Or feeling resentful towards a client, like properly fucking fed up. Like you've shown up every week, you've given everything, and they're just not doing the work. And part of you is frustrated with them. And then you feel guilty for being frustrated because you're supposed to meet them where they're at and hold space and endlessly be patient. But you're not a saint, you're a person. Or crying, like actually crying about your business because something doesn't work, or you're exhausted, or you're perimenopausal as shit, right? Or you just feel alone in it for that day. And then feeling embarrassed about it because surely if you were really aligned and in flow, you wouldn't be crying on a Tuesday afternoon about your email list. Or feeling proud of yourself, really genuinely proud, and then immediately shrinking yourself because you don't want to seem arrogant or showing off or trigger other people, or like you think you're better than anyone else. You don't want to feel like that. So even the good emotions get policed. Or what about feeling scared? Properly scared before a big launch or a live event or putting your prices up. And because you teach mindset and confidence and backing yourself, you feel like you're not allowed to admit that your hands are fucking shaking and you're nervous. I consistently share how nervous I get. All of them can't believe it. They don't believe it. People don't believe how nervous I actually get before a live event, before a speaking gig, before anything big that's important to me. They don't understand it. They don't understand why surely, possibly you can't do that. Of course I can. Of course I can. The duality of being able to be a healer and still healing myself. The duality of being able to be a confident speaker and a nervous speaker. Like, we can be all those things. We're humans. We can feel all the things. We're normal. And nobody tells you this. And I'm going to tell you this. You can feel your feelings in business. Please feel your feelings in business and be okay with it. It's normal. It's okay. It's so relatable. And the more we talk about this, the more the ripple effect goes out there of people just normalizing being a fucking human being in business. So if you're a coach, a service provider, a healer, anyone who works closely with other humans, other peoples, I want this podcast episode to give you the green light to give yourself permission to have feelings about your work. And what it indicates more than anything is that it's important to you, that you're passionate about it, that it's part of your mission, that it's why you're here on earth. It's your purpose. And when it's your purpose, it's important. And when it's important, you'll have feelings. And I would go as far as saying, if you don't feel anything, is it important enough? You're allowed to feel sad when your client leaves. I do, every time. And I'm not apologizing for that, ever. You're allowed to feel disappointed when something doesn't go your way. You're allowed to be a full human being inside of your business. The only thing that I would say to you is, and this is from somebody that's gone through this and not made my emotions or kept my emotions mine, the responsibility for my emotions mine. I've made those mistakes. They're worried to say, I don't want coaching anymore, I'm pausing coaching. But what I'm also taking from that is that I'm loved and they feel like I'm important to them because they wouldn't care. They wouldn't worry about how I felt or upsetting me if I didn't mean anything to them. So it's another win. It's another win. So don't make your clients responsible for managing them, right? For managing your emotions, because your emotions are your emotions and they don't need to be responsible for them. Don't let them leak sideways into your relationships. Be open and honest by all means. And I'll never apologize for being open and honest, but be aware of where you can do the work to improve on that. Just be honest with yourself. Do the work however you see fit. Business is emotional. It just is. It's built from who we are. So, of course, it touches us in places we're most tender. That's not a problem to fix. That's just the reality of doing work that matters. Like I said, it's important to you. The goal isn't to feel less. The goal is to feel all of it and still show up as the person you want to be. Right. That's me done. If this landed in any way, shape, or form for you, if you want to talk about this, get yourself into my inbox over on Instagram at the Danielle Hobson. Come see me, and I will see you in next week's episode.